In this video, we'll learn to bake the procedural materials we made for the eyebrows, eyelashes, and hair into texture-based materials. This is useful if you're exporting your character from Blender into another program such as Unity. This lesson builds on episodes 4 and 5, so if you haven't been following along, make sure you check those out first. Okay, let's start baking. So baking is just a different version of rendering. And so when you bake, it'll also capture these shadows from other objects. So we want to put only what we want to bake in the active scene. So to do that, we will make a new collection and put what we want to bake in that collection. I'm going to grab an eyebrow here that's as flat as possible, so it's nice even bake. And we'll hit M to move that to collection 8. Let's call this collection bake. Okay, so that's there, and we will hide everything else. We want to keep these lights, but we want to hide everything else. So let's click off. Make sure you don't click the eye, because that means it's still there, you just can't see it. If you click the check mark, that means it's turned off. Okay, so those are all off. So here we are, we've got our geometry and our lights. Yep, there we go. Let's go to our shading window and make sure we can see our eyelash. Okay, eyebrow. So we've got our texture here. Let's increase our sub D. So you can see in the viewport, it's pretty rough. The renderer is set higher, it's set to 2. So if we make this match the quality of the renderer, you can see it's smoother. But let's bump this up even further just so we get a nice quality bake. Let's put that to 3 and 3. We'll put this lower later. Okay. And we've got our eyebrow selected. So to do our bake, we need to make textures that we want to bake onto. So we'll do that now. So Shift A, S, I, N, A for image texture. Let's also hide this and let's turn on screencast keys. Okay. So we're going to make 3 textures. So we will duplicate this 3 times here. We will click new. We'll click make this called eyebrow bake albedo. Let's copy. I'm going to copy this first part because I'm going to call all 3 textures the same thing except for the last word. So copy that. We'll call this ALB for albedo. Let's make this 2K, 2048, 2048. Let's color this so we can tell we're making something. Okay, we'll do the same thing here. Well, okay, let's move that a bit. New, Control V, and this will be the alpha. And then let's make one more, Control V, and normal. Okay, so these are the 3 textures we're going to bake. So when you bake, and it's kind of weird, you want to click your geometry in the 3D viewport. You want to click your texture in the shader window here. So click that guy and the geometry. And then let's also go to here to make sure we can see it. So let's type in eyebrow albedo, because right now we're doing the albedo. Let's just do this so we can see what we're doing. So albedo, this is the albedo here so we can see it. And over here, we've got our geometry selected. So let's go into the renderer and see here. So you can see when it's rendering, it looks like it's 3D because we've got a normal map, it's got specular and all that stuff. We want it to be just kind of like just the color, so it's nice and simple. So let's go and set those settings so it only catches the color. So go to your renderer panel. So this right here, it's the render properties. And make sure this is not on experimental. And make sure this is on cycles. If you go into the sampling, the higher this number here is, the higher the quality is, but the longer it takes. And baking takes a long time. So I think 128 is okay. Let's leave it at that. Let's go down to your bake panel here. And we just want the color. So let's turn off indirect, leave diffuse, turn off glossy, turn off transmission, ambient, and emission. And that should be good. And so you can see here, the color turns slightly brown here, but basically it's all black. And we've got all of these shadings and reflections, and that should be gone when we bake it. So let's go and let's make sure we got everything selected. So geometry, texture, and bake. And I'll speed this up because it's slow. Okay, let's see what we got here. It looks almost like it's all black, but you can see we've got a bit of color here. And if you'll recall, that's how we set our texture. So that's correct. You'll see also there's the little star next to the word image here, which means that this bake or this render is not saved yet. So we will go to save as, and then I made a folder called textures. So let's save it wherever you want to. It pre-names it based on what you called that texture. So just click save, and it's saved. So now let's bake our normal next. So this third one is the normal. Let's click normal, the normal texture in the preview window so we can see it as it bakes, after it bakes. And then let's make sure to click our eyebrow, click our texture, and then go to normal and click bake. And the default settings should be fine. And this is baking the normals based off of our current texture, which was this guy we set up over here. Okay, so let's take a look here. And I think that's going to be okay. Not sure what that line is, but it should be okay. Okay, so then let's go to image and save as and normal. And then let's go and bake our alpha. So we'll click our alpha texture here. Now for the alpha, we want to have basically anything that's opaque, we want that to be white, and anything that's transparent, we want it to be black. So let's make our shader look like that. So let's take off so that we're back in our main shader, our regular shader, and we will pull off the color. So now it's all pink. Let's make that white, like that. And then let's go back and pick our alpha new shader here, and let's pick it over here so we can see it. Okay, there we go. And go back to our bake panel, and let's go to combine, and we will do, oh, you know what? I forgot something. Let's also go to emission and put this up to 100. Yeah, this is probably better actually. Let's do, I think we just need to do that. Just emission. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's try it. Let's see here. That looks about right. We've got black and white here. So let's go to image and save. Eyebrow bake alpha, right. Save that. Okay, so now we've got our 3 textures. We'll make a new material. Shift A, S, P, R, I for principled, BSDF. And let's drag these here. So color, we'll put this to emission for now. We'll put it back to diffuse in a second. Emission is nice because you can see what the texture looks like without any kind of like, you know, lights in the scene affecting it. Let's make our alpha non-color and our normal non-color. We'll drag the alpha to the alpha. And we'll drag, and then well, let's just do this. Drag normal to normal. Shift A, S, N, O, R for normal. Pick normal map and drop it in between. It should automatically hook it up. So that's the way it should be. And then we will, let's pull this down. Oops. Let's drag this down here so it's a little bit easier to reach. And then let's put our material back the way it was. So put the color back in and turn emission off. Okay, so you can see here we have our nice high resolution procedural material. And here is our baked one. So it should be not as nice, but it should allow us to, oh, that's weird. So let's turn the specular down and roughness up. So here's our new shader and here's our old shader. So you can see that there's a big difference. However, if this is, say, in a game or anything like a video, it's going to be way far out there and you'll never, unless you're like looking at individual strands of hair, you'll never notice the difference. Okay, so let's put this back to where it belongs. So let's come out of isolate mode and hit M. Oops, I was out. So come out of isolate mode, hit M, and move this to character and eyelashes, and turn our character back on. And let's see how it looks. Looks pretty much like it did before. Okay, let's do the same thing for the eyelashes. So let's grab we don't want the eyelash that's just the top. We want the one that's the top and bottom. And let's also make sure we get the one that's forward facing. So let's see here. Yep, that's forward facing. Let's turn that off. And let's go and add some textures. Shift A, S, I, M, A for image texture. This is basically the same thing as last time. Shift D and Shift D. We'll hit new. Call this EYELASH. Bake _ Copy this. ALB for albedo. Make this 2048 by 2048 and make this some random color. Do the same thing 3 times. V, this is the alpha, ALPHA. And this one is the normal. Okay. Shift A, S, PRI for principled, BSDF. And let's position this so it's easy to switch between our procedural and our texture bake version. We'll plug these in. Let's put this into emission for now. We'll put this back to base color later. And we'll grab this alpha into alpha and normal into normal. Shift A, S, and O, R for normal map. Put that there. Okay, so I think we're all set. Let's grab our albedo here. And let's move this to our bake layer down here. So we will hit M and move this to bake and hide that. Nothing else is active except our lights, which is good. Okay, now let's go and let's grab this, grab that, go to our render properties and bake settings, combined, direct, emit, diffuse. And let's go to eyelash albedo so we can see it. Well, this is kind of inefficient using a whole texture for just the bottom here. I'm leaving it like this in case you want to change the normals and have every piece of geometry for the texture laid out separately, so you can lay it all out through the whole map. But for this this video, we're just going to use the bottom here. But you have that space if you want to do that. I guess that's a more proper way to bake these. But since we're reusing the same texture for all the pieces of geometry, we'll just use the bottom section. I hope that made sense. And let's go and click bake. Yeah, so basically, if you want to bake this the right way, you would take all the eyelashes, combine them all together into one mesh, and then lay out the UVs so nothing overlaps. And that's the right way to do it, but since we're just reusing it over and over again for all the geometry, we're just going to do it this way. Okay, so this looks okay here. So let's go and image and save. And I'm using a dual screen, so you can't see my save window. So let's see if we can. Okay, eyelash, Bake-Albedo, save image. Okay. Okay, let's do the let's do the normal map next. So click this guy here, that's selected. Go to normal, and let's go to here so we can see it. And click bake. Okay, so let's go to image and save. I'm just gonna click save here. Okay, so that is saved. And now let's do the alpha. So let's grab the alpha here, get our geometry there, and let's modify our texture so it looks, so it will make a nice alpha. So let's pull that off. Let's make this white. Oops, not pink, white. Let's turn the emission all the way up. And I think this is not going to give us a nice alpha map because of all this hazy, almost translucent color here, white color here. We want to have it look like strands. It looked okay for our procedural, but it's not going to work for an alpha. So let's just bump up the contrast here. Let's see. I don't want it to be too thin, but I want to avoid some of these flat spots. I think that should be okay. Okay, so let's grab our alpha texture here. Let's make our alpha visible here. Grab our geometry. It is grabbed here, and we'll make this combined. Let's see, direct diffuse, emit, and bake. Okay, it looks pretty good. Go to image and save. I'm just going to save that. And then let's put our procedural shader back the way it was. So let's put that back on there. These need to be set to non-color and non-color. And let's see how this looks. So this is our nice procedural. Let's turn this down. Okay, so this is our nice procedural eyelashes, and let's drag this one over here and see how it looks. Oh, that's That's not good. Oh. Okay. Okay. That's not too bad. Procedural. Oh, it is a lot crisper. I think it's because that alpha. That might be too dark. Let's check with our whole character and see. Yeah, I think that looks too dark. So let's go and rebake that to be a little bit finer. So let's go and turn this back up, plug this back in, unplug that there, and let's make this alpha look a little bit finer. More like that. Let's go and grab our alpha again, grab our eyelash again, combine, direct, diffuse, emit, yes, and bake. Okay, this looks better. Let's go and save this again. And let's go and plug in. I think that's better. Let's go and check our character. Yeah, okay, that looks better. So let's go and put our procedural shader back together. So let's drag that back over there. Plug the base color back in and turn the emission back down. And then let's just check this out here. Yeah. Okay, that looks good. Oh, and we should put this this back the way it was. It's funny the haziness didn't. Oh yeah, I guess it's there. I just didn't notice it. It looked okay for the procedural, but for the baked texture, it didn't. But yeah, I think that's good. So let's put these lashes back. So grab that. M, character, eyelashes, turn our character back on. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay, let's do the same thing now for the hair. So we'll hide our character, turn on our hair, and let's go out of cycles. So we're not going to use the actual hair to bake it. We're going to use the straight pieces. So let's go ahead and grab these. Make sure we have the hair plus the curves, and Shift D, Escape GZ to get it out of the way. We will M to move and move these to our bake layer. And then we will hide the hair. So we want to, our lights are up here. So let's move the hair closer. So let's go, just drag it up, grab that, GX, GX, GX. Okay, so if you will recall, each of these hairs occupied a different space on the UV. So I want to bake them all at once, and so it'll just bake this section here, but that will apply to all the hair we made. So to do that, we need to join these with Control J, but because we have the curve modifier, it'll mess things up. So if you grab all these here, Control J, it does weird stuff. So we will grab this and hit apply, which basically applies that curve modifier. We can do apply again and apply again. So now we actually don't need these curves because it's the curve modifier has been applied and it's built into the mesh now. Sub Ds, that's fine. Let's leave those on. We can hit Control J and it'll just assume, oops, sorry. So, okay, I guess I only had sub Ds on this one piece here. So let's grab one hair without a sub D, shift click the other without a sub D, then shift click the hair with a sub D and hit Control J. So now it keeps the sub D. Okay, so now if we go to edit mode, you'll see the UVs take up this whole chunk here instead of just one area, like that. Now let's set up our texture to bake just like we did the last two times. So we will do Shift A, SIMA for image texture. Let's drag that out a bit. Shift D, new. Let's call this hair bake. Copy that. CV. Albedo, ALB. We'll make this 2048 by 2048. You can make that more if you want to, but your bake will take longer. Hair albedo. Okay. New, Control V. This will be our alpha, ALPHA. And this will be our normal. Shift A, S, PRI for principled, BSDF. We'll drag that to emission for now. Alpha and normal. Shift A, S, and OR for normal map. Drop that right in there. Okay, so now let's grab our albedo, grab our geometry, and let's just make sure it's lit okay. And then let's go to our render properties and the bake area. We are on combined, direct, diffuse, turn off, emit. And let's preview this too. It was the hair bake, HAI, hair bake albedo. Let's just zoom in a bit. Do that. Okay, selected and bake. Okay, let's go to image and save. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. Looks pretty good. Okay, so let's go and bake our normal next. So we'll grab our normal, grab our geometry, go to normal, and let's set this to normal so we can see it, and click bake. Okay, it looks pretty good. Let's go to image and save. I'll just click save. Let's plug in our alpha here. Normal's plugged in. Okay, now let's make the alpha. So we need to fix our procedural shader so this looks all white. All white. It's got a little color up here. I think that's not going to be good. Okay, let's try and render it and see what happens. So we will grab our alpha here, grab our geometry here, go to combined here. Let's turn off diffuse and turn on emit. Switch this over to alpha and click bake. Okay, so those little faint striations here, they do not appear in the main middle section of the hair alpha, so I think we're actually okay. So let's go to image and save. We'll save that. And then let's go and let's see, let's pull this back. Well, let's pull this back up to base color. Set this to non-color and this one to non-color. Let's put our procedural shader back. Plug our color back in. And let's see how it looks here. So let's see. So we can see how it kind of fades out. And let's switch this. Ooh, got a lot darker. I think our texture bake was a lot darker. Our color, because of how our lighting was set up. Let's check and see how our character looks. No, it actually looks pretty good. Let's see. Turn on cycles. Let's turn this specular down and roughness up here. Oops, maybe. You can see this hair is a lot less sophisticated as the our procedural, but it works for other programs where our procedurals wouldn't. So I think it's pretty good. Let's go to our modeling window. Yeah, there you go. So we've got baked textures for her hair, eyelashes, and eyebrows. So that's it for our video today. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, leave a comment, like, or better yet, support me on Patreon. And in the next video, we will learn to do some UVing.